Hello and welcome to Kitco with me, Paul Harris. We're at the 2022 Precious Metals Summit here in Beaver Creek. I have the great pleasure to be joined this afternoon by John Robbins, the founder of the Discovery Group. Good afternoon, John.
Hi, Paul.
Now, you've had quite a distinguished career, and the Discovery Group has racked up a number of notable wins in recent years. Kaminak Resources, more recently Great Bear Resources, and of course Elemental Royalties, doing a successful M&A transaction earlier this year. Congratulations on all that. What one of those, or what transaction, or what company you've been involved with has really sort of given you sort of the greatest pleasure?
Well, I guess in recent times, the whole unfolding of the Great Bear story has been nothing less than remarkable. Finding something in an area of Canada that a lot of people thought was in the wrong geology, all kinds of reasons why it shouldn't exist, and to basically, through good geology and whatnot, basically discover what could be one of Canada's great gold mines going forward has been fantastic experience. Yeah.
I think it was the Great Bear story was for me a real eye-opener in many, many ways. I first heard about it. I think I first interviewed Chris way back when the company was a $2 stock. It went up and up and up, and eventually it was taken out by Kinross Gold for what, $1.5 billion.
Yeah, 1.8 Canadian.
Sorry,
yeah.
1.8 Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, very, very big win there. And a key part of that, I think, let's talk about talent, because Chris is, relatively speaking, a relatively young geologist, and having the backing of the Discovery Group to really push ahead and test the geological hypothesis there, to fund that, to keep going with big, aggressive step outs, to really put something quite amazing together. I mean, that shows it's quite an endorsement of a relatively young person.
Well, absolutely. I mean, every great discovery generally revolves around, obviously you need to have the right rocks and the right geology, and then you need the right people, and then you need a fair bit of serendipity. And luckily, in our case, all three came together. I mean, we had one of the best technical teams that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I mean, 100% of the credit rests with Chris Taylor and Bob Singh, who were really the key people behind driving this, and then behind them a fantastic technical team. But it really revolves a lot around the people behind it, and being able to get past a lot of the dogma and rhetoric that we face in the case of Great Bear about you're in the wrong rocks, like it's been explored for 100 years, how could you possibly find something? But with good science and tenacity, we were able to, basically find, what's going to be one of the biggest gold mines in Canada.
Thank you, John. I'd like to sort of go back in time a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Discovery Group came into existence, what the original idea was, and maybe how that's changed or evolved over time as you've had experience with different projects, different companies, etc.?
Well, from my standpoint, I've always been interested in being involved in a lot of different opportunities, different commodities. So it kind of happened a bit organically, getting involved as a key shareholder in a couple of deals, putting a few projects together from sort of first principles. But what we didn't want to have is an entity that, as we've seen in the past and in our business, where you've got a group of companies, but really they're kind of a cash flow generating machine for a parent entity, and that's the one thing that we really wanted to not be involved with. So, what we wanted to do was to be a great platform for new and upcoming talent that we identified, to be able to provide initial seed capital and investment, share our banking relationships, and really create like a collaborative environment between all the companies, but still have them essentially operate independently within the group. So, Discovery Group itself isn't even a corporate entity. It's just really, a philosophy of that we share amongst everybody working together, but still maintaining independence within the group.
Thank you. Now, throughout the sort of portfolio, you've been involved in various different metals, with quite a skew towards the precious metals. PGMs, gold, silver, got some zinc and tungsten in there now. What is it you look for? And also in a range of geographies, a lot of them have been in Canada, but you've got something in Brazil, just started something in Colombia, or got involved with something in Colombia now. What is it you really sort of look for when you're considering bringing a new project into the fold?
One of the key things is people, obviously. Our reputation rests on the quality of the people in the group. So we're very careful about who is involved. We're obviously looking for what we think is the best talent on the street. And then on the commodity side, I'm a little bit commodity agnostic. We've kind of steered away from a lot of the specialty metals in the past, although my thought process is changing a bit on some of that with what's happened in the electric metal space and critical metals. As you mentioned, our tungsten acquisition in Fireweed. It's people, it's projects, and regardless of the commodity, if it's a commodity that has the potential to be, ideally a world-class kind of deposit, I don't think it matters what it is. We've always had quite a orientation towards earlier stage projects, but I think that's been evolving slightly towards more advanced projects in the last few years. I think looking for things that have, a little clearer path to an exit strategy, whether that's ultimately building a mine or developing it like we did, with Kaminak up to the point of, positive feasibility and getting some of the detailed engineering work started and then being able to sell them. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we're at the Precious Metals Summit here. This is very much an exploration, junior exploration focused event. Is this a good sort of happy hunting ground for you and the Discovery Group?
Well, it's actually one of my favorite venues in the whole calendar year. It's kind of, people are just winding down, their field seasons, that everybody's fresh coming out of the field. And I find it a great venue.
Okay. Now, obviously, one of the things the Discovery Group can provide to a junior, as you mentioned, you can participate in financings and help them finance their search and the testing of their geological model, their thesis. We're in a very difficult moment in terms of the equities. The equity prices are beaten down. The precious metals themselves are very volatile and beaten down. It's a very difficult environment for juniors to raise funds in. Does that give you certain sort of advantages or leverages as a group with capital to deploy?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a challenge, obviously, for a company in a time like this, especially if you're in a position where you need to raise capital. It's tough. Luckily, we internally have the ability to fund our own deals. I listen to a lot of people complaining about, the market's tough right now, and it's so difficult to do this. The times where we've set the stage for some of our biggest successes have happened in markets like this, because when things are depressed, that's where the opportunities arise. So for me, I actually like times like this, because this is where the best hunting happens. And that's one of the main reasons I'm at the show here, is looking for new opportunities, obviously talking about our existing ones, but also looking for new opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Now, to sort of close up, what are you sort of particularly interested in at the moment in terms of potentially jurisdictions and sort of commodities? What are you really looking out for?
Well, as much as most of my career has been focused in the precious metal space, and I'll always work in the precious metal space, I'm a big believer in the base metal side of things. It's a bit challenging right now, but one of our biggest projects within the group is our zinc project in the Yukon Fireweeds. We control an entire district there. I find that absolutely fascinating. I think the prospects for base metals are fantastic. There's just not big new discoveries being made. The big existing producers are running down their reserves. I'm particularly excited on the base metal front and on the critical metal side too. I think that what's unfolding with world politics, like the Western world has to come to grips with the challenges that we have with critical metals and where the bulk of them are located and produced from right now.
Okay. And do you consider copper a critical metal?
Yeah, I would absolutely call copper, zinc. We just picked up one of the world's largest tungsten deposits adjacent to us up in the Yukon. I tend to stay away from the more esoteric minerals because the marketing and the opportunities to finance those are more challenging. But absolutely, I think we're going to see copper, zinc, get into serious, supply issues over the next 10 years. So, yeah, very much I consider them critical metals.
I would certainly agree with you that. John Robbins, founder of the Discovery Group, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks.
And that's all from me, Paul Harris. Join us for more from Kitco soon.